everybody. Have you enjoyed the pregame show with Bev and Lynette? Hang on just a second. Look at this hair hanging down here. Who put that there? God. All right. Hi, everybody. And welcome to another monthly connection. It just thrills me that so many of you enjoy being part of this community and want to join us month after month. It thrills me that month after month, Spirit gives me new things to share with you. And I've enjoyed beautiful connections with those across the veil and get to share the awesome validations that we are part of something so much bigger than this physical world. You know it, don't you? And that's why you're here, so we can celebrate it together. So again, thank you to Bev and Lynette, members of my team. I want to acknowledge the other members of my team that make this work possible. My husband Ty has been working so hard for a week or more putting together our summer tour schedule. We'll be leaving in June and heading out west. So there's some big news. A whole bunch of you in California and other Western states have asked me, when are you coming out west? When are you going to teach a class out here? Well, just today, thanks to my events coordinator, Amy, she lives in Massachusetts, we have posted on the website, registration is available for a Personal Mediumship Plus live class with me in Reno, Nevada. I chose that because it's a little less expensive than California, yet it's very close to California for those of you who live out west, very close to the airport in Reno where we will be doing that class. So if you're interested, the dates are 29 and 30 of July. I will be in Reno, Nevada, teaching my 2-day Personal Mediumship Plus class. So if you want more details, go to my homepage, scroll down just under the banner and that video at the top, and you'll see the little thumbnails for upcoming events. Also, I'll be teaching on the East Coast at the Omega Institute again, my Making the Connection workshop that goes Friday to Sunday. Been very well received in the past, so they asked me to come back and do it again, and I just love it there. So I hope to meet you on one of the 2 coasts in the US. I loved hearing some of you coming in from around the world. We welcome you, but at least thank goodness we have the technology to do these live events online if you can't make it to the US. Let's see. I'm still taking registrations for my 7-week class with the Shift Network. It started last week, but if that recording's online, so you could easily catch up, that also you can find out details about right on my homepage. Celebrating very much here the Awaken Way app. If you don't yet have it, probably most of you do by now, since you're close enough in this community that you're with us here tonight. But do you know that we went online with it in November, and this week we hit 10,000 downloads. The app is free. It's all for you to get daily inspiration from the daily messages and so many other resources that are on there, all of them without any charge whatsoever. So check it out in your App Store or Google Play and enjoy that. Thanks so much to my tech guru, Jay Ashmitha, lives in South Africa and helps us out here. I just love the way the internet has united all of us, showing us what we know at the deepest levels. We're all connected. I just see like these strands connecting all of us, and that's my goal tonight, to show you how that really works. I did send out an email with a subject line about how somebody said some unkind things about me online. We'll talk about that later, and I'll do it in a way that won't bring the energy down, I promise you. But I do want to acknowledge that 3 lovely friends of mine reached out and offered to lovingly offered to take care of this issue in a very human way. You know, like they have friends in high places that could, well, we don't want to talk about the violence that they offered, but we're not going to go there. That's just a joke. But I love that I have friends that so many of you commented that you got kind of angry that anybody would say anything, but it kind of goes with the territory. The more you get out there, the more people see you. So people being people, that's bound to happen. But I'll tell you the effect it had and how to deal with that when people say things about you that don't feel so good. All right. How this evening's going to go is I have so much evidence from across the veil that it's really going to be a big portion of tonight, but there are always lessons in that for all of us about how to connect more, about who we are and why this connection is possible, and how very, very close our loved ones who have passed are. So I'll share the evidence, then the latest teachings from Spirit, hopefully we'll have time to do a little bit of channeling with Sanaya, group healing session, and I will pause periodically throughout the next 2 hours to answer a few questions from all of you. And Bev will field those and use her guides to decide which question to ask. We'll start, as we always do, with an invocation, just to come together as a group. We're all here energetically, but let's bring our awareness to that fact that we're all connected, all right? So close your eyes for just a moment. My dogs are under the desk here. They just love the energy that we bring when we do this. So let's just imagine a shaft of energy coming down around you, grounding you into the earth. Take a nice relaxing breath just to get centered in your own beam of energy here. Release all the tension, busy mind from whatever you've been doing up until this point. And now send your own shaft of energy out in all directions, 360 degrees around you, connecting all of us in awareness. We're all entangled, part of this Awakened Way community. That's why we call it the monthly connection. So may each of us hear exactly what we need to hear tonight. May we not berate ourselves for any of our own perceived failings in the past, but see these as part of being human and look forward to integrating more of human and soul so that we find that peace that's always available to us. May we all feel the love that surrounds us this evening and become better radiators of that love to affect our world in the most positive way, especially as we come together as this group. Whether you're watching live or watching later, know that every one of you matters and makes a difference. And we're so grateful for being part of this group. And so it is. Nice. Thank you. All right. So let's get going. I mean, do I ever have the notes tonight? Oh my goodness. So we'll start with a client in one of my readings, Connecting Across the Veil. I always ask, and I recommend if you're doing readings, you do the same thing. What is your intention? Sometimes people don't want to hear from their loved ones. In this case, my client said, I know who I want to hear from, but I'm going to just trust how it unfolds. I heard that and I thought, this is the perfect client, because that's exactly the perfect attitude. If you're ever a sitter or client in a reading, yeah, hold the intention that you hear from specific loved ones, but trust spirit. As a medium, as a spirit communicator, that is the attitude we all want to have. That, yeah, my client may have specific people in mind, but I'm just going to trust spirit however it unfolds. So this was very interesting. Right away, I sensed a male in front of me who was a partner, but I knew it wasn't her husband, and then sensed a child across the veil. Just could tell both of them were standing there waiting. And again, I knew it wasn't her husband, but I was confused about who this was. And she just jumped right in and said, well, it's my ex-husband. Well, clearly he was there because he showed up right away handing her daisies. I love when I can specifically tell what flower it is. I see lots of imagery, don't always see the people, but the daisies were clear. And it turns out when they first started dating, she said to him, you don't need to be spending a lot of money on me for flowers, so don't ever give me roses. So instead, from the very beginning of their relationship, he gave her daisies. That was his thing. So isn't that brilliant of those across the veil to know exactly what to show to identify who it is right away? All right. So she said, yes, I do have a son across the veil. She blurted out his name was Ryan, but then the ex-husband across the veil said to her, Rai is here. And I got goosebumps already. There they go. Not even 5 minutes into this, and we got the goosebumps. Rai is exactly what they called him. So beautiful validation. Now to show the cleverness of those in spirit, then Ryan over here said to me in my mind, go talk to my mom's sister. I had not yet sensed the sister here with us in the session, but I told her this and I said, well, you clearly must have a sister across the veil. And she did. But you see, this is interactive. For anybody who's skeptical about this, it's not just pulling data out of the air. This is the son across the veil saying, hey, go talk to my mom's sister. And then she has one. If it were just data, you might be just picking up the word sister, but this is somebody actually telling me that. So it was really interesting how I was able to tune into that sister's personality and really detail what she was like, so that my client, her sister, said, yeah, that's absolutely her. And then I said, this is really funny because I know she must have bowled, because she's pulling back her arm and pretending to be bowling. And she says, go back to Ryan for a strike. And in bowling, strike is knocking all the pins down. And we went back over to Ryan and got more good information from him. So see the cleverness there, very clever. And so it just flowed like that. And that's exactly what any of us who do spirit communication want to happen. Just have that flow and not be stuck. Well, I just have to talk to your son for a while. Now I have to talk to this man. No, they across the veil were guiding it. He said, go talk to the sister. Then she rolls a bowling ball over to him to show that she liked to bowl, evidence. And then, but why don't you go back and talk to him for a while? So it was really a fun reading. Near the end, I said to my client, your son, Ryan, just handed you a lollipop. And I could see it specifically. I don't remember what they're called, but those kind that are really a round ball on top, not a disc, and wrapped with paper that's twisted around. And it was cherry. And she said, well, that's interesting, because I just had a discussion with, I can't remember who it was, with somebody in her house about lollipops and how they're good when you have a sore throat. And I said, well, that shows you that that your son was aware of that discussion. I love when they do that for us from across the veil. But she said the kind of lollipops we were talking about weren't shaped like you described. I said, no worries, that's how he showed it to me. Well, believe it or not, when she stood up to leave the room she was in doing the reading, we were using Zoom. She looked down, and she'd been in, I think she was in his old room. There on the nightstand was one of those round ball lollipops wrapped in paper. She had no idea how it got there. She had no idea it had been there. And it was just, whoo, there were goosebumps again. Such a beautiful validation. Those across the veil see everything, and they see inside your mind, and most especially in your heart. So beautiful validations of that. So the gift again is to just surrender to how it's supposed to go, trusting spirit, and just flow with however it goes. Beautiful. You may remember, I believe it was last month, already a month, when I brought up how one mom here with a son across the veil had asked her son for a sign right before Bev and Lynette and I did one of my podcasts. Lynette asked me a question about animals across the veil, and my guides gave me an example of guinea pigs reincarnating. And I remember even on camera, when the word guinea pig came out of my mouth, I looked at my guides and I said, interesting choice, right on the air. Well, that was Mom's sign. She had asked her son to talk about guinea pigs, and it came up 5 times in about 5 minutes, the word guinea pig. So we shared that last month, but she had a follow-up that I'm just so pleased to share with you this evening. He said that Christmas Day, just a couple weeks ago, came. And of course, for anybody who has a very recent passing, it's a little bit more challenging than for most, even though some of us years later after somebody passes, of course, we miss them on the holidays. But I'm here to tell you our loved ones are around. And the next couple of stories I'm going to share with you really show that. But in the reading that I did for the guinea pig mom, because when we were set up like that, I knew I was supposed to do a reading for her, and I did. During the reading, her son told me he was going to be messing with her phone. I have to tell you, I'm straight up honest with you. When I hear those across the veil say these things, I think, really? You're really going to be able to do that? And you really just have to trust those in spirit. Well, she was so excited to write to me after Christmas and tell me that on Christmas Day, while missing her son terribly, the phone rang, and it was It was from their security gate for their community. They have a very convoluted system where people have to scroll down to find the person that they're visiting, punch in a certain code, and it rings on your phone. And then you punch a code and the gate opens for them. She said that it has never malfunctioned, ever, that system. And their name is way down the list. Her phone rang and there was nobody at the gate. Christmas Day. She's sitting in bed hours later, reading about signs from those across the veil, and the phone rang again on Christmas Day with nobody at the gate. She turned to her husband and she says, "That's our son, you know." So I love that she recognized that. In fact, I believe the thing she was reading even said, the more you acknowledge the signs and don't doubt them, the more they come. And that is the truth. Isn't that cool? Okay, so be looking for those signs yourselves. It's what really keeps us going. So another Christmas story. This is from Bethany's mom. Bethany is a young girl I brought through from across the veil and shared her at one of the Helping Parents Heal conferences, I believe, and I'm sure in a past monthly connection. But she said she woke with her usual sadness and yearning for her daughter on Christmas Day. So she said, and I'm going to share with you that she's a really good student of mine. She's been to my classes and she did exactly what I hope all of you will do when you want to connect with your loved ones. She said, I closed my eyes, settled my breathing, shifted my focus to the spirit world, and spoke to my daughter in her mind. I asked her to please give me a sign that she's with us. So notice, she didn't just go, send me a sign. She connected in the heart. And it's just that simple. Take a nice centering breath like we did at the beginning of this webinar. And the most important part is shift your focus. You literally go to them in the mind. Notice we don't go anywhere. It's a mind shift. And then ask directly. Does that mean things aren't going to happen if you don't ask in that way? Not at all. But this is a very deliberate way of holding an intention and making it stronger. So please try that when you communicate with your loved ones. So this is so awesome. I love what she did. She said, as she asked for a sign, she saw in her mind's eye an image of two ornaments that were at the top of her Christmas tree downstairs in her house. And they were ornaments of her daughter, little ones. But she saw that one of them had fallen off the tree. She felt her daughter showing her this. That is really good. That is an outstanding connection right there. So she said she tried very hard not to get her hopes up. And, you know, the human side of us immediately goes, oh, that couldn't possibly be right. I know I'm making that up. So she was a little hesitant to go down. She looked underneath the tree. She didn't see anything. And of course, she was disappointed. She turned to leave. And there she saw it. I'm going to bring up the screen here. Where is it? Right here. Look at this. There's the little ornament of her daughter. It had fallen off the top of the tree. Now, how does that happen? There's little Bethany, sweetheart. I mean, her daughter saw it. And mom, because she shifted that focus and tuned in and believed and knew that her daughter still exists, actually received that communication. How many people say, I don't get signs, I don't get signs? If we'd walked under the tree and saw that that fell off, how many people would just say, oh, it fell? So I don't know if her daughter knocked it off, but her daughter knew about it and was able to tell her. So beautiful. It's so valuable to share stories like this because the more we all hear them and celebrate them, they become part of our own thought forms and we can manifest these kinds of things ourselves. I can hear those across the veil applauding right now because they're saying, yes, you all have to understand this is how it works. You have to do your part too in creating the right energy through belief and intention and openness. Okay, beautiful. Let's see. And she then relayed thanks to everybody on my team, which is beautiful, for being part of this. So I hope Bev and Lynette and everybody else is listening to that. All right. So I live just around the corner from Irene, the vice president of Helping Parents Heal. And I stopped by her house the other day. It's kind of fun. She says, stop. We literally, I'll often say, I borrow, the cup of sugar, the quintessential thing. She says, I can't believe you're this close. You can do that. The other day I called her and I said, do you have any garlic? And there was this pause. She says, Suzanne, I'm Italian. What do you think? So I had stopped by her house and she told me that she had just spent over an hour on the phone with a shining light dad. That's our term that we use for someone with a child across the veil. His son had recently passed. She said, this guy, you might be interested to hear that he is retired military. She gave me a little bit of his background and she said he was very skeptical, but open. It had only been a couple months since his son had passed. And hearing that military connection, I know what military minds are like, and I know the spirit world is real. I also know how much we suffer when our child passes, and it's pretty new. So I said, reach out to him, please, and connect us. I just at least like to talk to him. So it doesn't always mean I'm going to do a reading for someone, but I watch for setups from the spirit world. Just the fact that I walked in her house right when that was unfolding started to feel like a setup from me, meaning spirits bringing us together for a reason. So she reached out to him, but that evening, I will tell you the young man's name is Chase, Chase. That's his name, the one in spirit. I picked up a book that I had acquired at the memorial service of a friend of ours, Donna Kelly. She wanted all of us to go through her books and take whatever we wanted. And I picked up about 5 books. And one of them that night, for the first time, spoke to me. I pulled it off the shelf, started reading it in bed, and the protagonist's name is Chase. Such an unusual name. And I looked up and I said, set up. And what's really interesting is in the book, the protagonist was struggling with his religious beliefs, and I knew that this dad was as well. So it was just phenomenal, the way the web works. Do you notice it in your own lives, the way the web works? So I did do a reading for dad, and let me see. Oh, so dad and mom were on camera for this Zoom meeting, and I had scheduled it, and then something came up and I had to reschedule. Some unexpected I had to take Ty to the airport unexpectedly. And so I felt really bad about rescheduling, and I rescheduled it for Christmas Eve. You think that was a setup from spirit? But it also puts a little self-imposed pressure on the medium, right? This is Christmas Eve. You really want to show them what we know. And I'm very much aware that we can't do this. We have to surrender, but that's just a key thing to keep in mind. Just trust. The way this came around, I knew it was going to be okay. But my goal was really to show this very military man that his son is still here, and certainly show his mom as well. So the reading started, and I feel his son right away. And I said, this is a very strange way to start a reading, but he's holding up what looks like a jar of jelly. He's shouting jelly at me. And they both went like this. I mean, jar of jelly, really? Why is that shocking? I got goosebumps. Mom says, wait a minute. She goes off camera for about 2 seconds, comes back and holds up not a jar, but a beer can that had been turned into a candle. And right on the label was jellies. It was one of his favorite bands. So he wasn't holding up a jar of jelly. He's holding up this candle, the jellies, to let his mom and dad know he knows they have it. And he was right here. I just looked up at spirit and I said, thank you. Christmas Eve is saved. Because when you start off with a gold nugget like that, you're just golden for the rest of the reading, because you can just get all your human stuff out of the way and let spirit come through. Do you see how I'm aware of the human tendency to worry, but you just notice it and you just don't let it take you over. Trust, surrender. It's an ongoing thing as long as we're in these bodies that are programmed to do the opposite. All right. So let's see. Yeah. So the whole reading was just one gold nugget after another. And I remember somewhere like halfway through it looking and saying, so Dad, you understand now this is real, right? And he says, I'm understanding that, which was really cool. And near the end, a grandfather came in talking about a Civil War connection. Very odd. Turns out Chase's middle name is a Civil War general's name. So very cool. Very cool. So I like to say, you know, more lives changed through mediumship. There are so many people out there who are skeptics who automatically dismiss mediumship. And do you see what they're missing? What they're missing? The healing, the joy, the love, the connection. So I'm just so glad that all of you are on this journey with us, because we know, don't we? And you don't have to convince anybody of it. The evidence speaks for itself. And if people are open to it, beautiful. So how many of you remember Oatmeal Kim? I can see some people raising their hand. Quick recap. I went to do a class in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and got there the night before and was wandering around the lobby of the hotel, figuring out what I was going to have for breakfast. And I'm going to bring up the screen here to show you. Let's see, we'll go here. I think I have to. Let me see. Oh, here we go. I looked through the gate at the counter for Starbucks. And do you see this basket right here? It's full of oatmeal. And this woman came walking by in the lobby. It was Kim, a student of mine who I was going to meet the next day in class, but had not yet met her. As soon as we finished talking, she left. And out of the corner of my eye, this maple and brown sugar oatmeal packet, I took this picture after it happened, slid downward in the basket and slid back up. And I heard it go. I mean, come on. Is that a hallucination? Maybe. But how much of this is really real? Is this world really solid? Not from the spirit's perspective. Well, the next day I confronted Kim because I knew it was a loved one of hers. And she said she had come to the class because she wanted to connect with her mother. I looked at her and I said, did your mother like oatmeal? And she went, now, most of us don't gasp over oatmeal, right? So I'm sorry if you've heard this story, but hopefully you love it as much as I do. I could tell it 100 times and not get tired of it. Not only did her mother love oatmeal, she ate it every night for the last week before she passed, and specifically brown sugar oatmeal. So not just at breakfast. So Mom made that oatmeal. Okay, my guides say Mom had a little help. She was pretty new on the other side, but they just manipulate energy so that what's perceived through our field gets to the brain and it says oatmeal packet moving. And that's our reality. So I got a note from Oatmeal Kim that she says we're supposed to call her that. So I love it. And she says that she and her family now get signs almost every day from her mother, from her aunt. I did a reading for Kim later, and her aunt had just passed and she came through beautifully as well. Mom and her sister are together across the veil. Beautiful. But Kim's oldest daughter is pregnant with her third child, and it's a baby girl. And she said, her daughter said she had been getting signs from her aunt and grandmother, but she had not gotten any from Kim's mom. So was hoping that Kim's mom across the veil is keeping an eye on the baby in utero, right? And of course we know that our loved ones are helping with everything all the time. But anyway, Kim said, I assured her that my mom is there and that she's taking care of her. Well, Kim got a phone call from her daughter, all excited. Turns out that her daughter sometimes orders groceries to be delivered from a big store nearby, Target specifically, and just puts her order in electronically because she doesn't want to go out in the cold, especially not when she's pregnant. So she began unpacking the bags. She got to the third bag, and in that bag was a box, can you see it coming? Of Quaker oatmeal, specifically brown sugar maple, Mom's favorite flavor. Kim's daughter does not like oatmeal. She has never ordered oatmeal. So I guess it just happened to fall into the box. I mean, of course, somebody put it there, but accidents like that, how do they happen? Probably the person stocking the bag actually somehow saw it on the list. Was it there on the list or not? Does it matter? Mom got the sign across. Isn't that cool? I love that. All right. Thank you, Kim, for allowing me to share more of your story. I'm sure there will be more because her mother is a force. She's a very strong woman, good communicator. Let's see, we've been going half an hour already. Bev, how about we field a couple questions? I'll ask my guides for answers.
Okay. We have several people here for the first time tonight, and I have about 5 questions in a row that boil down to, who is Sanaya? Is it one person? Is it many entities? Is it Suzanne's ancestors? Who is Sanaya?
They are saying right now, we are everyone's ancestors. Wow, I love that. Sanaya is a group of guides higher than most normal spirit guides. They would be at the level of the masters and the angels. They've been coming to me since August of 2010. They're the ones who deliver the daily messages, and they're just here all the time with me. Sometimes I know individuals, but sometimes they just speak as a group, and it's who I channel, and hopefully we'll channel them for a few minutes later. But they, as you've seen already, they snag me when they want to correct something that I've said, and they want to assure all of you right now, you all have access to any of the masters. My group is attuned to my energy, and they said I'm supposed to call them Sanaya, which means one worth knowing. Also means flash of lightning, which is how my stepdaughter was killed. Interesting choice of name they gave to me when they first came through. So please don't think that you can't also connect with higher beings, angels, archangels, anyone, and Jesus, Buddha, anybody. That's who Sanaya is.
Okay. Thank you. This is from Joan, and she prefaces this by saying, I'm serious, this isn't silly. Suzanne, if Thor or Odin, mythological figures, are real, are our figures like Santa Claus real?
Oh, wow. Wow, what a great question. Okay. Oh, there's a little lip twitch too. My lip twitch is when Sanaya has an answer and they say, trust this, but ask them. Santa Claus is absolutely real as a thought form, and you are a thought form. It is, you are a being of light, of creativity. You are, all of us are this creative intelligence of the universe that is experienced. And there's the difference, they said, experiencing life through a personality and certain characteristic traits. So they said the difference is that this Santa Claus does not actually experience life and make free will choices, but as a thought form, we can tune into the energy of generosity and love and connection. So because so many people have believed this story, given credence to it over the years, little children would actually feel that presence come near them. And that's just the creative intelligence spirit bringing that presence to them. That's a cool question. How about one
Great.
more?
Yeah, one more. This is from Angie. I've heard the phrase, the birthday effect, that more people tend to die around their birthdays or holidays. Is that true?
Yes, the guide said that we can believe that this is true, and you can check records that somebody's probably done a study on this, but they say it's because we give so much weight to cycles and completion of cycles that there's something in the human side that wants to hang in there, and the soul knows that time a little bit here or there doesn't really matter. And so we stay and we complete that cycle and achieve a milestone, and then there's a relaxing, and the human is more ready to move on to the next experience. So lovely. All right. Thank you. Thank you all for the questions. All right. Let's see. Okay. So a teaching point here. If you're going to do readings for others, if you're going to try to tune in on your own to your own loved ones, always be aware of how your energy is and what your thoughts are saying, what what you are putting in your own mind through your own thoughts. I did a reading for a mother and a daughter on screen at the same time and made an assumption. Brenda, my guide in spirit, came through before the reading started and showed me this symbol. She was a basketball fan, and that means slam dunk. What that means is this reading is going to be really good. A slam dunk, great reading. Well, I started this reading and it was not a slam dunk. I saw that mother and daughter, and right away, I'm ready to call it off because the first several things out of my mouth were incorrect. Please understand that I get wonderful evidence in readings, but I, to this point, usually don't see the spirits. I have to feel them and use my system to pull me to different locations where to identify who's here. And I felt and assumed there was a husband across the veil because I have a mother and a daughter. Big mistake. Nope, no husband. I was wrong like 3 times in a row. And I'm looking at Brenda, my guide, and saying, all right, what do we do here? You told me slam dunk, and I'm ready to call this thing off. And she said, Suzanne, just settle down. So what do you do, everybody? What do you mean settle down? Get centered, take a nice few deep breaths, and we remind ourselves everything I've been saying to this point. We can't do this. We have to trust spirit and just surrender. It's really challenging when you've gotten several things wrong in a row. Now, that's a good point. I often say a no is not always a no in a reading. Maybe the client doesn't know what you just gave them, but we all know it if we have a child or a husband across the veil, right? So in this case, I was very wrong, but in fact, I sensed the child, but it felt like a daughter right off the bat. Wrong again. That was my 3rd no in a row. But Brenda's saying, keep at it. So I said, well, clearly it's a son because it's not a daughter. And so just relaxing and surrendering, I said, well, your son just wants me to comment that your daughter here on screen loves to do her hair. And the daughter gasped and burst into tears. She said, I was just doing my hair. And I said, if you're really here, please talk about this. Just on a dime, turned the whole energy around. So see, I was going downward because I got several no's, starting to talk myself out of it. But thank goodness for my guide here saying, you've got this. Thank goodness for the tools to be able to relax instantly. And he just slipped it right in there. This is what I need you to say. And it was really funny because halfway through the reading, because from then on, it was just, we took off from there, and it was a slam dunk reading. But at one point, he literally shook a finger at me and he said, I couldn't get anything through to you. Your energy was terrible. So truly, those across the veil need our energy to be receptive to theirs, need it to be clear, kind of like the guy across the veil that showed me. Their world is like one aquarium and we're in another aquarium. And if the water is disturbed on either side, we're not going to be able to sense each other. We all need to just go, right? Just calm down and get centered. All right. So it was really funny because in this same reading that did not start off well, but then went skyrocketing, all of a sudden he gave me a name. I said it out loud and both Mom and the daughter went, that's his name. And I'm going to make one up because I don't want to give away his nickname, but it will make it Dilbert, right? It was a name like that, kind of a funny name. I said, his name is Dilbert? And they said, well, it's his nickname. So right after getting his nickname, which was just joyous for all of us, I said, well, he's handing you a cat. And they both looked at me like this. I said, maybe you're going to be getting you a cat, but getting yourselves a cat, but he's handing it to the daughter. And now he's showing me a rescue dog as if he had a rescue dog. This was not making any sense to them, but I knew what I was seeing. Well, I had to send him an email after the reading because a few hours later, I think it was, after doing the reading, I got an email from some animal shelter saying, Dilbert is missing. and it was a picture of a cat, the same nickname that he had given me right before he handed them a cat. Comes up, this cat in our area named Dilbert was missing. And then at the bottom of the same email was a picture of a rescue dog. I got goosebumps. It was just a beautiful validation again of the web and how he saw all of this coming together and was able to get his nickname through. But I just found that so amusing. I hope you do too. But let me see. My point here is don't give up right away if you don't get a connection, even if you're not a medium. It's always a matter of just working with our energy, noticing our thoughts, noticing how we might be muddying the waters just a little bit. All righty, let's see. I have a picture to share with you here from my slides. I started a reading, and my instruction to any of you working as mediums is say everything, report it objectively. Hopefully your sitters will understand. We will interpret things through our own lens, but I always instruct my clients, as long as you understand what they're trying to show, that's all that matters. So I described to my client, wow, you have a husband across the veil. He's coming through right away, and he's showing me that logo. Let me bring up Oatmeal Kim here. Hang on. Let's see if we can change slides here. Ha! This one, clear as day, showed me this in my mind's eye, and I described it. I said, I can't for the life of me remember what that is. And she said, I know what it is. And I can see Lynette knows what it is too. She's joking around on screen here. She said, it's the Rolling Stones. My husband was British and they were his favorite band. And it's one of those, okay, we can relax again now because he's here and he's got this. So happily, she knew exactly what he was showing her. And I love that I didn't know what that is. And then right away, he showed me a Cadbury bar, and she said, yeah, that was his favorite candy as well. So specific imagery, very cool. I hope by now you're catching on that the evidence is very real and that you are part of something so much greater. Let's take a couple more questions, Beth. Yeah.
Okay, I have to get myself unmuted there.
You're muted. There
yeah, okay. This is anonymous. If one has not been blessed with a partner or a loving family while in the human body, who will be across the veil to guide us?
The most loving beings you can imagine. Members of your soul family who have been with you for 1,000 years, who may not have incarnated, or you might not have met in this lifetime. Your paths may have crossed, but by some fluke of free will, you didn't meet, and that's okay, because at the soul level, you're all together always, even while you're in this body, and they're just waiting to greet you, and you will know them immediately. And especially your spirit guides who've been with you your whole life, even if you didn't realize they're with you, you're going to have just a beautiful greeting and maybe a little laugh that you didn't get it, but the soul always knows that it's fine because you know you're together always. Trust me on this. The evidence is so clear from the interaction with the guides that this is the way it is. And I believe we all know this in our hearts. And as you hear these stories, it just bubbles up into awareness, and you know you can trust this.
Thank you. This is from R.Lee. When I pray for someone's healing, is one prayer enough? Does it matter if I say more prayers over and over again? Is there a difference?
Yeah, one prayer is enough. And then that intention is held. Certainly from our human side, we feel that more is better, but that prayer goes out there and it's held. But I would continue to send prayers. A daily practice is fine. Watch for obsession, okay? Because it doesn't get to the point where you feel you have to be doing it all the time. So you're just strengthening your prayer with daily prayers. That's a lovely thing to do for anybody, but moderation is fine. That's what we want to watch for. When you do something too often, it shows you're in human mode and just are not trusting spirit. They heard you the first time. Now you're just radiating more love. Okay.
Great. Another one?
Yes, sure.
This is from Marie. Just regarding artificial intelligence, in the future, is it possible that souls would incarnate into a robot here on Earth?
I have to ask the guides that one. All right, let me just ask. Wow, they're giving me the thought without words, so I have to put words to it. Anything that is created by the hand of a limited human, now we're here, we have limited consciousness, we are connected to this source, can never match the perfection of that created by pure intelligence. So the free will that is part of the soul could be expressed through a robot, but the body's perfection is part of the, they're just saying that the body is so much a part of the soul that each cell has its own intelligence, and that physical matter without life and cells have life would be missing that intelligence. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Here's questions tonight. Thank you. So I'm going to share one more story before I get on to some of the other things that I promised I would share with you this evening. This one is a little lengthy. If you tuned into my talk to Helping Parents Heal in December prior to the holidays, you will have already heard this. But I know that there are a lot of you who haven't heard it. And if you already did, then we're going to celebrate it again. I know that both of the moms who were part of this miracle that unfolded are with us tonight, Melissa and Eileen, and I thank them so much for allowing me to share this story again. It comes with a lot of slides, so I'll be sharing those as we go through it. But I did a reading for Melissa last April. She has a son across the veil named Kellen, K-E-L-L-E-N, and she was absolutely thrilled with the connection that we enjoyed. There were so many gold nuggets of evidence. Those are those really unique pieces, like the Rolling Stones logo, right? That I couldn't possibly know, or the medium wouldn't know. So many gold nuggets that I featured Kellen in one of the stories that I told in my keynote speech for the Helping Parents Heal conference last summer with Melissa's permission. So I'm going to share some of the slides that I showed that night. So let's see. She said, let me pull up my slides as we start here, that the timing could not have been better for this reading. She had just had a birthday. Waiting for the slide to change here. There we go. Here's Kellen. And she was missing her son terribly, of course. We do on Christmas and any holidays and birthdays. And she said to her son, shifting her focus like we talked about earlier, Kellen, I've been on Suzanne Giesemann's waiting list for 3 years. Maybe you could tap Lynette on the shoulder to get me a reading. Do you know that very same day, Lynette reached out to her to schedule the reading. So Lynette may not be consciously aware that she's being used by spirit, but we see the results of this all the time. And this shows all of us that our thoughts are not always our own. We're part of a shared consciousness, and that's what makes these connections possible. So let me share some of those gold nuggets. When he first came in, I started bouncing him around and I said, your son had this very excitable energy. He makes me feel like a kid in a candy store. The more you do readings, the more you realize that the words that come out of our mouth are not accidental either, because his mom sent me this picture of Kellen in the candy store that was right down the street from their house. So he was in there so often that was certainly not an accident that he said it that way. You can see here he has a little bit of, he has a nasal tube there. Kellen passed from a brain tumor, but he came across absolutely fine from across the veil. So he showed me this image of bursting onto a football field. He showed me a football team bursting. You know how they do that? They run out of the tunnel from the locker room and they burst through a flag, and then they all run around holding a flag. Well, this next slide validates that so beautifully. Here's Kellen with the Seattle Seahawks. He got to run onto the field with them. So he was sharing a treasured memory. I mean, that's a gold nugget, absolutely. the goal of mediumship is to show your client and to show all of you that death is not the end. They're still intelligent, creative, humorous, loving, and the people we remember them as. We're still people even without a body. So he showed me himself in a Superman t-shirt, and then he showed me Mighty Mouse. I thought Mighty Mouse might be before his time. I even heard the Mighty Mouse song, "Here I come to save the day." How many of you remember that? Most of us, I think, yeah. And then he showed me himself in this white collared shirt several times. So here's a slide of him in the Superman shirt. And this was not Mighty Mouse, but another figure, that a cartoon figure that was a favorite of his in that white shirt. That's what Melissa figured he was talking about. He showed me jumping on a trampoline. Oops, I skipped one. The snake story. He showed me some incident with a snake that freaked his mom out. And in fact, I could even see the snake winding its way up his arm. And mom remembered this incident very clearly, but she was quick to tell me that she was not the one who took this picture because she had run screaming from space. Couldn't stand to watch her son handling the snake. I love that. Okay. So then the trampoline, yeah, does every kid have a trampoline? I don't think so, but I could clearly see him jumping on that trampoline, and he went through a skateboarding phase. I don't know if every boy does, but he was showing me favorite moments from his life, which is beautiful. He showed me that he used to wear his baseball cap backwards, and we have more than one photo showing that. So it was really evidential, very clear that he was there. He showed me that he used to go camping with his family. In fact, this camping trip with his dad was significant because it was just the year before he was diagnosed with the brain tumor. And they went on this trip that was very special to them, especially later. So he also, this one was such a gold nugget, showed me that he had a friend, a female friend, who had drawn a portrait of him. And his mom sent me that portrait. And then later in the reading, he talked about having a secret decoder ring. I wouldn't know a secret decoder ring if I saw one. And yet I heard him talk about it. And I just had this sense that that friend, that female friend, would know about this ring. What's beautiful, everybody, is that his mom knew nothing about it. So anybody who thinks that readings are just reading your client's mind, well, first of all, if you're the medium, you feel the loved one's presence. You know they're here. They say funny things in your ears and things like secret decoder ring. Well, mom went and checked with his friend. She was off at college and had her mom get this picture for all of us. That, my friends, is what a secret decoder ring looks like. Ha! It was hanging on a chain with other treasured things from her friendship with Kellen. The bottom part of it actually twists around. They both got it at the same museum when they went on a trip there together, and very special memories. That to me is just such validation that love never dies. I just love that. So somewhere toward the end of the reading, this was really funny. Kellen was showing me flapping his wings like a chicken. And I said, I don't know why he's putting this together with sports team, but he was on some sports team that had something to do with chickens. The name of the team. And she said, I'm not sure, but something in my mind remembers that. So she went back through her records. I think she may have even reached out to the coach of his ultimate Frisbee team. Here they are. Here's Kellen with his ultimate Frisbee team. And their name is, you ready? Drum roll, please. The Chicken Warriors. Gold nugget, once again, telling us that Kellen is right here and our own loved ones who have passed are still right here. So when the reading was over, Melissa was thrilled. I got to bring you out of this for a minute here. I remember leaving that reading and not being thrilled. I could not deny those gold nuggets. In fact, of course, they were that stunning that I shared them in a conference. And yet there were so many things that Melissa couldn't identify. I mean, I made some serious mistakes, such as saying, well, there's suicide around here. I don't feel your son took his own life. And she said, no, he didn't. I got a whole bunch of names. She couldn't take the names. And I couldn't understand why there were so many no's. But Melissa just let the no's roll off her, which is beautiful. She focused on those gold nuggets. And often it's only one gold nugget is all you need to let somebody know that they're really here. But she had a plethora of them. But these no's really just stuck in my craw. I couldn't understand what's going on here. Well, Melissa took note of those names that she couldn't identify. And she realized she was also going to go to the Helping Parents Heal conference. And she said, never told me this, I wonder if one of the moms at the conference will recognize some of these names. So she was in a talk by the medium Mark Anthony, and she sat down next to a woman and they began talking about their sons. And one of the names that came up twice in that reading for Melissa with Kellen was the name Brian. It turns out this woman sitting next to her named Eileen has a son, Brian, in spirit, who took his own life. And his personality is such a match with Kellen's. They suddenly realized their sons could very easily have met up across the veil. I know that members of Helping Parents Heal, the kids are having a ball across the veil together, even if they never knew each other here. It's been shown time and time again. Well, they started comparing notes, and Melissa ultimately played the reading for Eileen. And I want to share some of the validations with you. There is no longer any doubt in my mind what happened. It's that Kellen brought Brian into his reading. Both young men were present. I just never realized it because I didn't see them in my mind's eye. And I go on personality. I didn't realize we had two boys. If I had my system, I would have said, step apart. Brian, you talk over here. Kellen, you talk over here. But neither one of us recognized we had what I call an interloper in our reading. But it was a total setup. Oh my gosh. Brenda just said, clear as day, you weren't supposed to know, Suzanne, because she never would have found Melissa this way, or Melissa would not have found Eileen. It would not have unfolded and it wouldn't have become this teaching point. So let me share with you some of the gold nuggets that we didn't realize were gold nuggets at the time. I hope you find this fascinating, how those across the veil meet each other and how they can orchestrate things for all of us to learn from. Okay, let's see if we get the next picture up here. White shirt kept coming up. This is Brian. In the reading, I was told to talk about the spiky hair. You've seen a couple pictures of Kellen. He didn't have spiky hair, but how about that spiky hair there? That is Brian, and Mom recognized that. Let's see. Let's see. The energy, I want to share it with you now, how it was so similar, not just they were good kids. Listen to these specifics that came through in the reading. Kellen had a very busy energy. He was diagnosed with ADHD. He was stubborn and independent, a picky eater with food allergies, loved animals, full of humor, and loved to tell jokes. He was extroverted, a big talker, sporty, athletic, and enjoyed pushing the envelope. That's a pretty specific personality. While talking to Eileen, she described Brian as having many of the same traits. Also diagnosed ADHD, stubborn and inquisitive, a picky eater with food allergies, extroverted, enjoyed debating, loved animals, athletic, and played multiple sports, and also enjoyed pushing the envelope. Can you see now why those boys knew that this was going to be a good setup for us? So let me see. Here are some of the evidence pieces. I saw my symbol for Philadelphia in Melissa's reading. It's a pretzel. A soft pretzel is a famous thing from Philadelphia. Having grown up near that city in Pennsylvania, that anytime I see a pretzel in a reading, I said to Melissa, there's a Philadelphia connection here. In fact, I'm seeing the Liberty Bell. And she said, no, I just can't come up with anything. So I said, just remember it came up. Well, it's because here is Brian standing in front of the Liberty Bell. There's the connection. Okay, let's see. Again, I had that feeling of suicide, and when she couldn't take it, we just set it aside, and alas, that is how Brian passed. I saw the fingers go toward the eyes. Even though I couldn't see the face of the spirit, I saw such a clear flash of blue eyes. And I said, after I reported, I see blue eyes. Did Kellen have blue eyes? She said, no. That one threw me off, but look who did. Here's just a baby picture of Brian. Look at those blue eyes. And that's clearly what I saw flash before me without realizing there were two different spirits there. At 2 points in the reading, I referenced a thumbprint. I said, you may even have his thumbprint the way this feels, and you have a lock of his hair. Melissa said no to both. Now, again, really hard not to get knocked off balance when you're getting no's to such clear imagery. Well, it turns out Eileen has both the thumbprint and the lock of her son's hair. What's really beautiful, my friends, is that she had been unable to go and look at the lock of hair since her son passed. But because of striking up this friendship with Melissa, because of listening to the reading, she went and found these sacred treasures, and it's really propelled her grief journey in a beautiful way. Okay. He also, during the reading, I was shown a box with what looked like black boots in it. Eileen recognized this right away. Those are her son's high top sneakers that look like boots. And she said that for her, the box of boots was a huge sign from her son. So I love that. There was a feeling in the reading of, I thought it was coming from Kellen, that Melissa and his dad were separated. When I see this symbol in a reading, clearly mom and dad were separated. She said no. And so again, knocked off balance. Couldn't quite figure that out. But Brian's mom and dad were separated. So there you go again. Then tattoos came up. And I said, as I say tattoo, I'm supposed to mention feathers. Melissa couldn't take that. But look at this tattoo that Brian had himself, a tribute to his family with a feather there at the bottom. This reading was almost 50-50. Gold nuggets for Kellen, gold nuggets for Brian. It gets better. So remember the names that came up. When I get names, I'm thrilled always. Certainly we got the name Brian, but I was also pulled off to the side, meaning friends, and given the name Jason and Matthew and Justin. Melissa could not take any of these names, but are you ready for this? Well, first of all, I saw playing football, and Melissa said Kellen didn't play football, but Brian did. But he was also on a volleyball team in high school. Here's a photo of Brian with his teammates the year they won the championship game. His coach was Matthew, and you can see from the roster down here, there's Jason and Justin. So Brian, Jason, Justin, Matt, all related to the same moment in time in Brian's life. Wow. So let's see. When I read this evidence that Eileen and Melissa sent to me, I actually burst into tears sitting on my couch reading the email, because I beat myself up so many times that names come up in readings that people can't take them. You get no's and people can't take them. And if we just trust, and you have a mom like Melissa who wasn't going to let it go, she just knew there was a reason for this, and she played detective. These beautiful connections come to play. Beautiful. So I was supposed to mention also the name Mark, more names. I said, there's somebody off to the side your son wants to bring up. Well, Melissa couldn't take a Mark, but Eileen's cousins, here's Eileen's cousin with her husband, Mark Anthony. if you remember from my story, the two women met while sitting in a talk by the medium, Mark Anthony. That one is just a fun little God wink in my mind's eye, but I think it's really cool that it was not random that they sat next to each other. Do you see that? That's the huge part. If they hadn't sat next to each other in the Mark Anthony talk, we wouldn't be sharing all of this right now. Oh, Spirit just said we would have found a way to bring them together one way or another. So I love that we had that kind of support. I also sense that Melissa's father, let's see, was still alive and knew Kellen. Wrong. They never met, but Brian knew his grandfather very well, and they had a very close relationship. I sensed the grandfather was very musical, and he was indeed. Here's an older picture of him, and that the whole family was musical, and Eileen herself plays 4 instruments. So beautiful. It was a very strong connection with his grandfather, and lovely for Eileen to know that her son and his grandfather have gotten together. The grandfather came through and said, "You'll be fine, honey, you'll be fine," which is something he always used to say to Eileen. Let's see. And then I saw one of those old time keys. This is actually Eileen's key to a cabin, I believe, that they visit. There's more. I think we're going to move along here without lessening the magic. Let me just say that there's a poem here that Eileen realized shows that her son had a premonition about the way his life might go, and it had to do with a key. So she feels that in that reading, he was telling her that he's okay, and the key was very symbolic for her. So finally, as we draw to an end here, both women realized that their sons' names were significant. When Kellen was born, they chose his name because it meant mighty warrior. Turns out Brian's middle name, Walter, together Brian Walter means strong warrior. You remember the chicken warriors? There's a little theme going on here. So the way I ended my talk at the Helping Parents Heal conference has a message for all of us here. Kellen, in one of his gold nuggets, showed me he sees his mom. He showed me that his parents donated his eyes after he passed. And indeed they had. That was a huge gold nugget, and thrilled her that he knew about that, which of course he did. And he said in his reading, "I don't need them anymore, Mom. I see you just fine." That one really got my heart. I hope it touches yours as well. But it's very clear that both Kellen and Brian see both their moms, and we can, of course, extrapolate that to the rest of us and know that our loved ones see us as well. Isn't that cool? I just want to share with you something that, where'd the note go? Here we go. Eileen wrote to me. I want to read it to you here. "Had you done the reading for me alone, if I had actually done a reading privately for Eileen, you brought in so much evidence related to Brian, I would have thought it was exceptionally validating. It's clear you go back and forth between evidence for both of the boys. We believe they shared the reading for our benefit to help us find each other and continue to heal and grow. It's a wonderful example how we're part of planning on the other side before we were in this physical realm, and this experience typifies the web that we're always talking about." So I hope that just opens your eyes more to the magic that we're all part of. Not magic in the sense of magical tricks, but the wonder, right? The wonder. So I hope you enjoyed that long story. It's filled with so much love. And I want to thank Brian and Kellen and their moms for sharing all of that. So we'll take a few questions, and then I'm going to talk about the other teaching that I said in my email I would talk about. Bev?
Okay, this is anonymous. What exactly do you mean by across the veil? What is the veil?
You should watch my latest interview with Lisa Bonice from the Shift Network in their Afterlife Summit. I believe it's on my YouTube channel, isn't it, Bev? I did it recently. Yeah.
I can't remember now. Yeah.
Watch it. You can, Bev, when she puts this video together, we'll put a link to that video. But
Mhm.
the veil is a metaphor for the filter that's blocking our awareness of the presence of loved ones that is always here, the presence of angels and guides, the greater reality. So in that interview, I said the body is the veil because the brain filters out so much awareness of information, consciousness that is all around us. So the veil is really just a lack of awareness that the other dimensions interpenetrate our own right here, right now, which is why when we pass and we no longer have to experience life through the body and the brain signals, we have so much more access to information and awareness of other realities. But we can learn to part the veil, as we say, by expanding our consciousness. And that's what meditation allows us to do, get into a more spacious state of awareness than the limited focus that we usually experience when we don't realize there's so much more. And that's why I spend so much time telling these stories, to show you what's possible for any of us by parting the veil, which is simply another way of saying expanding your consciousness. That's a bit of a long answer, but so important that we understand we are this energy we're tuning into, and it is sometimes limited awareness versus spacious awareness.
Okay. Liz wonders, have you ever communicated with some of the more famous scientists who were staunch atheists when they were on this earth? And what is their reaction when they pass to the other side?
Wow. No, I haven't, not in awareness. As far as scientists, I've connected with Albert Einstein with evidence, and with David Bohm, who's a very famous scientist. I think that's the only scientist I've connected with. And they both knew there was a greater reality. But wouldn't it be interesting because so many of the spirits in my readings, they show me this symbol, meaning my eyes have been open. Once I got rid of this veil, the body and the brain could not deny that there's more. And so, when I hear scientists now who are just, dead set against opening their minds, it's just one of those, well, okay, I'll see you across the veil. I'll see you when neither one of us has a brain anymore. And we'll have a discussion about what happened with that limited awareness and what that resulted in while we were here. So if we can just imagine who we are without the brain, then we're open to many more adventures. Okay. Go ahead, Bev.
Another one. Okay. A mediumship question from Brittany. How do I gain control of emotions during readings and connecting? When I feel a wave, I start to burst into tears. I like feeling deeply, but how do I control the emotions?
And that is so important to do that, because we must differentiate our own feelings from those of the spirit. So it's being aware that we're very emotional. We need to get grounded more we can just have a lot of imagery of being anchored into the earth, deep breathing, and setting the intention to remain detached, yet still compassionate. Detached, compassionate. This is a great tool and skill to have just when dealing with people in normal human-to-human relationships. But just know that, as Sanaya said to me at one time, a cracked vessel cannot carry water. If we're going to carry accurately the messages and evidence from those across the veil, we can't be cracking wide open and letting our own emotions show. So set the intention that you remain neutral. You're a reporter. That's what we are. We're the medium, the person in the middle. It's not our job to get caught up in the other person's emotions. If you catch that, you say, give me just a second here to get centered. And you just take a few breaths. You can ask your guide, help me get centered. Remember, my task is to remain neutral, yet compassionate. All right. That's a great question. Oh,
Great,
well,
thank you.
it also applies to any of us who want to connect with our own loved ones, because if our waters are all churned up, it's going to be more difficult to communicate, right? So there's nice deep breaths and just shifting. Wonder why that alarm's going off. Shifting to the soul's perspective. That'll help anytime. Okay, one more, Beth.
One more. From Maria. If souls are always safe, why do some require healing when they get to the other side?
What's really happening is, let me get the wording just right here. You are a projection of a soul, an absolute thought form, a pattern of thoughts and energy. You carry that back to merge back fully into soul awareness, but that pattern is still here. Do we want to take some of our traits and merge them back in with the soul? Not really. So we keep playing the role. Oh, what a perfect lead into the next story. Even across the veil, while we continue to raise our awareness, and the soul says, okay, now let's merge back and just take on other experiences that we want to try. There's nothing wrong, nothing good or bad, but what is most aligned with love, that's how the soul just continues to grow brighter and brighter across the veil. The soul is already whole. You are complete and whole at your deepest level. Know that. But in these roles, we get in certain patterns that we may need to decondition or repattern. Okay. So I'm going to tell another reading story, but this is the one that I talked about in the email that went out about talking to one of the greatest teachers, one of the masters. Okay. So this reading just happened last week. I didn't know that this woman had had several other readings and was not happy with them. I'm so glad I didn't know that. Lynette does my scheduling, and she's sworn to not tell me anything about readings or clients going into them, which is the way I feel it is best. So she told me, I want to hear from a specific family member or anybody else. So that's always good. She didn't tell me who she wanted to hear from. And this reading started out kind of unusually for me. Normally I'll get pulled over here for fathers, or over here for mothers, over here for a child, and then we just zoom in on that person and unfold their personality and all their evidence. But in this case, Spirit took me over here. I said, you have a father in spirit. And before I could go any further, brought me right to the front, and you have a husband in spirit. And I got pulled right over here, and you have a mother in spirit. Normally it unfolds one at a time. And she said, that's exactly who I want to hear from. Boom, boom, boom. And it just stunned me. And I said, well, before I even dive into your mother's personality, for some reason, she's holding up crackers and crumbling them. And my client reached down and held up a pack of crackers and said, you mean like these? And I said, by any chance, do you have crumbs in your lap? And she said, yes, I do. And I said, well, Mom sure knows about that. It was just such a fun way to start a reading. Well, Mom came through and said, we all came in at once because we want you to know we're all here to support you. Now, this is where that last question was such a setup from Spirit, and Bev knows nothing about what order I'm going to talk about things. She just chooses the questions as guided, and she was clearly guided to ask that one, because this mother and father came through, and there was a lot of abuse and maltreatment in my client's life from these two. And yet they came through to say, we are here as your soul family. At the soul level, we're here to support you. Those you would not recognize us unless we gave you certain evidence and showed you the personality of the stories, the roles we were playing while we're here. But we want you to know that when you cross the veil, we're not going to greet you as those people. You'll recognize us, but we are helping you now soul to soul. This is the truth I've known all along. This is the deepest teaching, and it's part of what I teach in my personal mediumship plus classes. We come to know we are souls always, and we're playing roles now and across the veil. And even here, we can choose. Do I want to stay in this story, running this script over and over that's really not serving me? Or do I want to expand my awareness and step into my soul nature and have compassion for everyone, including myself, for the times when I was caught up in the script? We didn't get into that level of detail in the reading, but this is what her mother's soul was saying from across the veil. And it really is something that all of us need to keep in our minds all the time. We're playing roles here. You're looking at somebody that you call Suzanne, and I'm looking at Bev and Lynette on the screen right now, but we know these stories serve a purpose. They allow us to make choices and to make mistakes and to learn from them, hopefully, and may they be as painless as possible. But yet always in the background, once we awaken through stories like these and our own personal experiences of our spacious nature, we can choose to no longer get stuck in the role and to come from that higher place, which is the soul. So then her husband came through. That's who she really wanted to hear from. But mom and dad came first because their messages were so healing, the lessons so healing. So her husband showed me a long gun. I wasn't quite sure where he was going with that, so I didn't say it right away. Then I said, he's peering through a single lens, like a spyglass or a telescope. And all of a sudden I saw the long gun under it. I said, no, it's a scope on a gun. He was a hunter, but he's saying double meaning, double meaning. Not only was he a big hunter, but he has his eye on you, honey, still. And indeed, he had been a big hunter, and that was just such a cool way of bringing evidence in with the message. He's still looking out after her. Really cool how clever they are. So here's the part where this got really interesting. I went back to the reading to get word for word how this came through, but I suddenly was getting a beautiful message for the client. She gave me permission to share all of this, and it was coming from Jesus. I even said online, because I recognized him, who is this? Because I couldn't believe he was speaking directly to my client in the reading. So here's how it came through right from the video. I know you have a very personal relationship with Jesus. If you haven't already met him in your meditations, he will make it very clear that he's there. And then I went, who's saying this? Because I just couldn't believe it in the reading. And then he said to me, you know who this is. And I said, he wants you to know it's okay. You're worthy of being friends. He doesn't want to be put up on a pedestal. He is a healer. He wants to take your hand and walk you through that curtain to knowing. There's the veil, right? And it was so beautiful to go back and watch the video because her face got red, her eyes teared up, she choked up, and she said, thank you for that. I appreciate that. And then I said, he shows me a cross on a chain that's kind of hidden. And in this beautiful moment, she reached down inside her turtleneck and pulled out the cross on the chain. And I said to her, this is straight from Jesus, who I converse with a lot. And she said, I talk to him all the time. And I said, he's letting me know that there's that personal relationship that came through right away. And in the most beautiful, validating conversation, she said to me, I actually asked him to talk through you to me today in this reading for a message. You have no idea how healing this is. And she was crying and said, thank you. But it's healing for all of us. I know it's beautiful for me. It's challenging to be in these roles as humans that we're playing with this limited focus caused by the veil, the brain, and growing up among other humans who say, you can't talk to these masters. And yet, once you come to know from the teaching, I've gotten the teaching straight from the masters, and so can you. We are all expressions of the same source. What did Jesus say? I and the Father are one. This you can do, and so much more, what he does. And what he does is share with us the same teachings that you and the Father, the Mother, Father, Mother, God, Source, Spirit, are the same light, but really, really, really limited while we're taking on these roles for the experience of being human. And it's this beautiful web that shows itself in all these wondrous ways that I've been sharing with you this evening that shows us this. And it's my greatest desire that through opening your hearts and minds to this, you too will reach out and talk to whatever master of any religion, of any belief you want to. And it's all possible, even Santa Claus, because they're all thought forms that arise in the mind of God, of Source. And we are expressions of that. So beautiful. And then there were more profound teachings for that client in that reading. I came out of that reading just awed by the effect that this work has for people in one session. And later in the reading, all the beings became one, and I heard Shakespeare, all the world's a stage. And I looked it up a little later, and in fact, that is a quote from a Shakespeare play. And it was the culmination of the message from the Mother, from the Father, and from Jesus. This world is a stage, and we are all actors on a stage. Beautiful souls taking on these veils of costumes that we wear, the scripts we play. We have to have a story, but how's your story serving you? You can change the script at any time. And the more we align ourselves with the soul's true expanded nature that knows we're all connected and that love is what connects us, then it becomes a beautiful love story. Even if it's not a beautiful love story, it's still okay. That's the other part of this, you know, because ultimately you as Source cannot be harmed. Wow, there's no death, just the veil parting. Afterwards, she emailed me a couple days later. I feel like I am walking on a cloud. I feel lighter. I slept better than I have in some time. That's a common outcome of readings. Wow. So I'm going to skip ahead now because this is the perfect time to share that little incident that I had. So I get the daily messages every morning. That's what I put in the Awaken Way app. You can all enjoy those. And I got a beautiful message about a week ago. And it was, I have to back up a little bit. The guides say, remind them about the watermelon incident. Talking to my guides one morning in meditation, I was shown I could trust what I received from Spirit. The sign they were going to send me was a watermelon. That night, I was guided step by step to watch a 2020 program on TV, and there was the watermelon sign over and over and over in that program. I don't watch 2020, but I found myself Googling TV shows on my iPad. I didn't realize I was being led step by step. This is what happens when Spirit uses us. We think our thoughts are our own. So fast forward to last week, I get a beautiful message from Spirit, and I was typing it up in the morning. And it was really funny because here, I'll share with you the message. Your guides and your higher self are doing their best to protect you from your ego self. You say you don't notice, but you do. You notice when things don't go as you would like. And it went on and on like that. As I was posting the message, the music in my living room was playing, "Rescue Me," which just cracked me up. It's like, please, Spirit, rescue me from myself, from this script, from my story. We need this. And our guides are there to rescue us if we only remember to turn to them. So I posted that Daily Way message with "Rescue Me" being played on the radio. And for some reason, oh, the guide said, every time we say "for some reason," there's a reason from Spirit. I don't remember who I Googled, but I Googled a person, maybe somebody that's going to, yeah, that's it. Oh, good. It's somebody that's going to be on my podcast soon, somebody coming up. As I Googled them, you know how if you Google somebody, you get all the website responses on the left, and sometimes they put a little square about somebody who's well known on the right. So for some reason, after Googling that person, I thought, I wonder if I have one of those squares on the right. I don't know. Sometimes I hadn't even gotten up from the couch yet. So I Google my name. And right there in the responses comes up Suzanne, Giesemann, and fraud. And I kind of went, I will tell you that I went on later to Google a whole bunch of well-known mediums. And I'm here to tell you that every one of them has the word fraud after their name. So I'm in very good company. Okay. It's a Google thing, but I didn't realize it at the time. To me, the ethics and integrity of this work as a medium is like number one in importance for me. So to have that word put after my name, I wasn't happy. So like on automatic, I clicked it to see what I would find. And here's this big blog post with my picture really big. And this man wrote this huge blog post about a magazine article I was in, where I was on the cover of a magazine talking about my work. Well, I started reading these things and just got this flush through my body. I'm sure you can imagine. To me, I was taken back to childhood. I'd done something wrong. It's the bad little girls in trouble feeling. And even if you're a little boy watching this, I think we can all identify with that "I'm in trouble" feeling. But having been living the awakened way for many years now, that feeling was so uncomfortable. I don't know when I have felt such a huge rush of that in a long time. I really needed rescuing, let me tell you. But I went back to see for tonight, to read it again from a neutral place. And I'm proud to say I was able to go back and not be at all upset about it. But just to show you, the guy talked about this article where this woman claims to talk to dead people. And he wrote, they talked about her Navy career. Okay, so the discipline and hard work that she learned in the Navy taught her to do whatever it takes to fulfill the mission. And that made her a better spiritual medium. Right. No wonder we have the greatest military in the world. Lordy. That's what he wrote. The more I read, it's very clear he had an axe to grind, and it wasn't with me at all. It was with the media. How can you give this woman who talks to dead people all this attention and put her on the front of the magazine? Yet he had written several things to the media and they wouldn't print it because he had a different political view than they did. So it wasn't about me. And this is the point. When people say things about other people, do we really know what's in those people's heart? Or are we making a type, a stereotype? And I just realized he doesn't know me at all. But what do you do when somebody says something about you? Number one, you just recognize right away, defensiveness comes from within the story. It's the script, it's the ego. And I knew that. I had just gotten a message from the spirit guides that said, we're here to protect you from your ego. And it's the oldest part. That's why I went back to childhood, when we're worried about getting in trouble or not being loved. That's the bottom line for every one of us, isn't it? What will other people think? So it's just like the person that got too emotional, asked that question, what do I do when I get too emotional in a reading? We learn to realize it's all consciousness, and yet we can compartmentalize our perspective into the role and the soul. It's all integrated, but where you put, that's from my Susan, where you put your focus is what you experience. Susan, my Susan who passed, once told me, we are all players in one symphony. Where you put your focus is the instrument you perceive. So what you do is you just give no power to somebody who's coming from their own story, the writer of that article, right? I know it's not true, the things that were in there, and he really didn't say anything wrong about me. He said what I do, but he just made it sound like I'm an idiot for believing these things. That's his opinion. He's entitled to it. Do you know in your heart what is your own truth at the soul level is the point. And I know beyond any doubt, you and I are beautiful souls. And the man who wrote that article is a gorgeous soul. He just doesn't see it because his veil is tightly clamped shut. That curtain has not parted for him. And so I hope that someday, well, that's right, we'll cross the veil and I'll say, hey, you that guy that wrote that article? What do you say now? And until then, God bless him. But I just went and used some of my tools, one of them being my no fault method of noticing my reaction, observing it, feeling that horrible discomfort that came up, acknowledging that came from little Susie who didn't want to be a bad girl, understanding that that was okay, but I'm not her anymore. This role has evolved. Loving myself unconditionally and assuring Susie she's okay and she's loved by this soul. Even if nobody in human form in this entire world loved this role, it doesn't matter because we know who we are. Can you apply this to yourself? This is the teaching. You are a soul, you are whole and complete. You're taking along an old story if other people's stuff still gets to you. You're human and so it will arise, but use that no fault method. And the last one is talk to yourself, T. Talk to yourself lovingly, treat yourself lovingly, and tap energetically, tap away, look up EFT, emotional freedom technique. After that incident, I was so knocked off balance by the energy that came up from that old stuff that was clearing, thanks to that gift of an article from that man, that I did some tapping and it's gone. I was able to go back and look at that article and say, yep, there I am on that big old blog post. And there's that guy who's the one who's really sounding a little silly here, the one who wrote it. But I'm not pointing fingers, just saying from this perspective, I see where he's coming from, and it's just a narrow view. And when you can learn to love them anyway, I say thank you to the guides for rescuing me. They will save us from ourselves. So I think that's enough said about that. Yay. So no harm, no foul, right? Wow, that childhood stuff. We're going to be diving into that a lot more in the future and on my Alaska cruise, which, by the way, we have put registrations in a waiting pattern because we filled all the staterooms. We're going back to get more cabins, not in the whole ship, just what we were given at first. But we're going to be talking about the scripts and the stories and how to live more joyous lives in all of my teaching, because that's the awakened way. All right. Bev, how about I answer a couple of questions, then we'll do that group healing.
Okay. Daryl wants to know, do you connect with your own friends across the veil, Suzanne? And she specifically mentions Janet and Mavis, but people in your life, do you connect with them?
Yes, that would be Brenda, our friend, my guide, who I talked about. We knew Brenda so clearly and dearly when she was here in physical form, and she's now my mediumship guide. And I talk to her almost daily. I have not yet heard from Janet or Mavis. I sensed a presence, but it hasn't been clear at all. I know they're busy and they know hundreds of people, so they don't have any need to come talk to me just yet. But I happily, oh yeah, right, Bev. I did right. Channeling
Donna.
right after our friend Donna passed last month, it might be 2 months by now, and she came through, and another one of our friends from the original development circle that we had, Anne, came through as well. And it's just beautiful. I can tell who they are, but they still give us evidence when they come through. So you bet they love to communicate with us.
Okay, thank you. Judy asks, when a body is non-responsive in hospice, where is the spirit or soul? Is it in or out of the body?
Yeah, the soul, as long as the body is breathing, is still creating that experience of the body. Notice when the spirit leaves, the body starts to return ashes to ashes, dust to dust, right? It just returns to earth. But so the body and the soul are still connected, but where is the soul? The soul is never geolocated anywhere. The soul just is part of the entire field of consciousness, meaning it's everywhere. How about one more?
Okay. Don has a question about reincarnation. Was there a certain point when souls started to reincarnate? Has it been forever and ever? Or was there a certain point in evolution where reincarnation was introduced?
I have to ask the guides that one. Oh, yeah. I mean, that they're saying that that's from the very beginning. That's how evolution happens. The soul continues its cycle of lifetimes. Yeah. Okay. So would you all like to meet Sanaya? Those of you who have not, I would be honored to bring them through for you. And we've been doing this every month for quite a few months now. And it's just a very brief bit of channeling. I don't know what they're going to talk about, but they're very present. And so the way we'll make this little shift from me to them is by all of us sending healing energy to each other and to, I'm thinking of one specific person that those on my team know. We just did a healing session for her recently, but it doesn't just have to be for those of us in the group. But if you are in need of healing, know that you will receive it from everyone else. By getting the focus off of yourself and your needs, you actually open yourself up more to the healing energy. You'll actually feel that greater energy. Know that you can send healing energy out simply with your intention. You can hold your hands up or not, but I'd like you to visualize it coming in from the heavens and going out through you to whoever needs it. Know that the body has its own innate intelligence, so we don't have to focus on any certain ailments, just seek balance and full health in each other. That's mental, emotional, spiritual, physical. All right. So while you all are sending healing and sending me some energy as well, please, I'm going to be tuning into Sanaya here, and they'll come in after a minute or two of you doing the healing and have some words to share with you. So I look forward to hearing what they have to say too. And they'll just speak for a few minutes, then we'll come back and wrap this up. So I'll walk you into getting started for the healing. Okay. So let's all just close our eyes for a moment. And thank you all so much for joining us for this. Let's all take a nice relaxing breath. Release it nice and slowly and relax even more as you let go of any tension and just settle into being the healer you are. Move your awareness to the heart and affirm your willingness and readiness to be the perfect conduit for healing energy to flow through you and out to all others. So please send that energy now And as your thoughts wander, just bring it back to perhaps saying, sending healing, sending healing. So please begin and thank you. Good evening. Do you understand why this one, the channel, has had such a hard challenge bringing through the one known as Jesus in her channeling sessions? It is because of the way she was raised in a family that did not speak of such things, did not believe in the religious story of the one known as Jesus. But it is because of the very lack of teaching this one had that she was open to my presence, not as a historical figure, but as one who always knew quite clearly, I and the Father are one, exactly as you heard earlier this evening. Why could not any of you speak to the one known as Jesus? All of you are one with Source. This is the message that bears repeating over and over. It is only the belief systems that keep you trapped in your limited thinking, that keep you from knowing that you can communicate with any aspect of Source, for you are that. You are this one being you. So are you speaking now to Jesus? Are you hearing from me now? It depends upon how you wish to define me, as the one and only God, as the one Son of God, or as an expression of that purest of sources. That source will present itself to you in whatever way is most healing. There are some of you who may believe it is not possible to speak to me, God, in the form of a man who walked upon this earth 2,000 years ago. And yet the evidence is clear that any of you can speak to higher beings, for the source flows through all beings equally. It all depends upon how much the veil parts and where your belief system begins and ends. Ask to speak to a certain being, remain open to this, and as it propels you forward on your own soul's path of evolution, you will be introduced to exactly which beings provide you the most benefit. I come to this one For this is the message that we in the higher realms wish all of you to hear the most. You are so very loved. It can be no other way, for love is what unites you all. It matters not which expression of God, of source, you wish to communicate with. Know that when you open your mouth, you are the voice of God. Open the veil and access greater beings, knowing you are accessing your own higher self. We do not wish to confuse you this evening, but it is through the confusion and that inner nudge that you have of understanding more who you truly are that you gain the keys to the kingdom. We bid you good night. That was interesting. Okay. I'm checking with my guides if there's something they want me to say here. Yeah. I was aware of this repeated motion of my head while the healing was going on, and I was being shown this blue orb that has happened at several events when I have channeled, when people with eyes to see, who could objectively see Jesus, saw a blue orb with his face in it, and it settled right over me. My human story still balks a little bit because I believed the script, and I'm still a work in progress, yet I can't deny who comes through us when we open our hearts. So take what you can from that message, and may we all part the veil more and more. I'm telling you, when we do that, you just can't help but love everybody. And that's the greatest gift of all. So we'll just end on that note this evening. I don't want to say any more than that after that beautiful message for all of us. I love you all so much. Thank you for joining us. Just checking to see if there's anything else I need to say. Nothing other than thank you to Bev. Thank you to Lynette and all of you for being on this journey with us. We just love you so much. And we'll see you in the podcast, maybe back here next month. But please stay safe. Remember who you are. Spend time in the silence every day, even if 3 minutes a day with the sip of the divine, okay? It makes all the difference in the world. That's how you part the veil. All right? Be well and good night.